The last time you saw Jose as a free man in the U.S. was when you walked into this building together.
Yes. Jose walked in there. I'm sitting in the lobby holding Carmen. She fell asleep in my arms. And I remember saying, Lord, please don't let it be what I think it is, Lord.
Rose Escobar is a U.S. citizen. Her husband, Jose, is undocumented. On February 22nd, they reported to this ICE office in Houston for a regular check-in, their first since Donald Trump's election.
And I walked where Jose was. He was sitting down, there were like 5 guys around him. I knew he had been crying. And I said, no, what are you guys doing? And they're like, first thing they said was, ma'am, we're only doing what our president is instructing us to do, the new administration. I said, no, your president is talking about criminals. My husband's not a criminal. Show me where he's a criminal.
After a close call with deportation in 2011, Jose was allowed to stay in the U.S. as long as he followed the rules, which he did.
And then he said, you didn't try hard enough to legalize your husband. And I said, sir, I'm not ordering a burger here. Legalizing is not that easy. I have to go home and tell my son daddy's not coming home.
Less than 2 weeks later, Jose was deported to El Salvador.
I had one guy tell me, now that he's gone, you might as well go find yourself a good American real man. Whatever the hell that means. I have a good man. I just need them to bring him back.
Since Jose's deportation, Rose and their 2 kids have been trying to get used to life without him.
Like Jose tells me, you know, honey, even though I stay here, the longer I'm here, the longer days pass, I know I'm closer coming home. And that's one thing that I have to remember. I miss coming home and having that boring routine that you have, coming home and me going to the kitchen, him sitting down doing homework, me cleaning and him getting everybody upstairs, taking them a bath.
Oh, it's that good.
Rose is a receptionist at a busy children's hospital. Her mother now helps with the kids. Jose and Rose met in middle school. They've been together ever since.
Hi, Dad.
Hey.
Hey.
At 15, Jose had something called temporary protected status, but he missed a deadline for its renewal and then a court date. Even though Jose has no criminal record, there is no easy way back to the U.S.
I'm sorry.
Just the fact that I went to the wrong lawyers, that marks me as a criminal to them. I'm not there, you know, I'm losing time with my kids, trying, you know, I'm never gonna get it back. Especially now with Carmen's 2 years old.
Do you feel like your case was affected by the Trump administration's election?
For the Trump administration, you go priority, you know. Once you're there, everybody have to get out.
Yeah, I know he was
Jose faces a ban from the U.S. of 5 to 10 years.
As far as what President Trump is saying, I'm here to protect the American people. I'm standing by the American people. I'm an American. I'm in this limbo. How are you protecting me? You're hurting me. You say you want bad hombres? Go find them. Hey, look at me. Look at me. Don't get sad. Don't get sad. You know I love you, right? Desde aquí a la luna.
As I've said repeatedly to the country, we are going to get the bad ones out, the criminals and the drug deals and gangs and gang members and cartel leaders. The day is over when they can stay in our country and wreak havoc. We are going to get them out, and we're going to get them out fast.
President Trump has vowed to be tough on immigration, promising 15,000 new ICE and Border Patrol agents, more detentions at the border, harsher prosecutions for immigration violations, and more deportations.
Ay, gracias Dios por esta oportunidad que me da de abrazarlo.
This government center in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, receives newly deported men and women every day.
Bienvenidos, los extrañábamos. Sabemos que fueron a trabajar. Sabemos que fueron a buscar un mejor porvenir.
Deportations are nothing new. Record numbers were removed under Obama, nearly 500,000 in 2013. But in Obama's last years in office, he introduced priorities for deportation to focus more resources on immigrants with criminal records. Efrain Marquez was detained just weeks before Trump took office. From the age of 4, Efrain grew up in Oklahoma. He's married with 2 kids and worked as a derrick hand on oil rigs. Now he's waiting for family he's never met to pick him up.
When I first, heard I was going to get deported, I was terrified because my whole life's been in the United States, my whole life.
Efrain was on probation when ICE picked him up. He had a conviction for drug paraphernalia.
We all make mistakes. We're not perfect, From 18 to 30, 28, we make the worst mistakes. My DA gave a good word for me. Nothing helped.
You okay?
I have no words. It's hard. I just really miss my kids, my mom, my wife. It's the hardest thing. Every day I come home, after work, my kids come and hug me.
Toward the end of the Obama administration, close to 90% of removals fit the deportation priorities.
An ordinary status violator who had not committed a crime could sort of have certain amount of expectation that if they left their home in the morning, they could come back at home and see their kids again.
Musafir Kisti studies trends in immigration enforcement. He says the most immediate changes under Trump are the end to the Obama-era priorities and the anti-immigrant message coming from the White House.
If the president's narrative is that all immigrants, and certainly all unauthorized immigrants, are criminals and rapists, then it sort of gives license to people to be more bold. ICE officers will have much more freedom to decide whom to apprehend and whom to remove from the United States than they had in the prior administration.
How many could he deport a year?
To scale up the total number of removals is going to be very difficult. So I think the tendency under the new regime is going to go after targets that are easy. When no one is a priority, everyone is a priority. And that's caused a lot of anxiety all across the country.
In the first months of Trump's presidency, deportations of immigrants with no criminal record have more than doubled. In Houston, an estimated 1 out of 12 residents is undocumented. Since the election, many of those 500,000 people are in a state of anxiety about being picked up by ICE on the street or getting that knock on the door.
You live every day scared. You thinking, I come home from work or I come home from school and I don't know if one day I'm not gonna find her. Just living every day scared.
Sari and her sister Crystal are U.S. citizens. Their parents died when they were kids, their mom from cancer and their dad from a neurological disease. They were raised by their aunt Nina, who is undocumented. She didn't want her face or full name to appear in the program.
What's the photo you're holding?
Este es el papá de las niñas.
That's our dad.
Ellas son.
And that's me and my sister.
Before her brother died, he asked Nina to to make him a promise.
Él quería que las niñas crecieran aquí para que ellas tuvieran una mejor situación que en la que vivirían allá donde estábamos. Entonces yo le dije que estaba bien. Y él murió.
Sari, who's now 21, would like to petition on behalf of her aunt for legal status, but it's not an option.
Yeah, you know, I always thought, well, she's like our mother, so she is our mother in a way. So maybe, you know, one day we can do something to fix it because she's our mother, you know. And one day there was this thing on TV where you could call and they'd answer your questions if there was possibilities and stuff. And their first answer, their first response was no. And I guess that's where, like, the door hit me in the face, you know?
And how does it make you feel?
I don't find it fair.
90% of Americans think legalization should be a possibility for qualifying undocumented immigrants. And 60% think developing that path to legal status should be the government's priority more than deportations. But that's not the message from Washington.
This administration says it wants to have kind of an enforcement-first strategy. What's wrong with that?
Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what they're doing. And that's what we have been doing since 2000. But you can't just do enforcement only and keep on doing enforcement only without looking at the other parts of the puzzle. And what they effectively do is that they create more enforcement problems. We have 5,000 visas available for all low-wage occupations in the country. That just doesn't make sense. I mean, we change interest rates every quarter, but we don't change immigration numbers for 25 years. That just doesn't make sense. And that is where I think the broken immigration system has to be addressed.
While congressional action on immigration reform remains out of sight, undocumented immigrants are trying to prepare for more uncertainty.
We're on our way to a Know Your Rights meeting. It's with the immigrants' rights groups. And they want people to know that as fear spreads across the country in the face of the Trump crackdown, that even if people are here undocumented, they still have rights under the Constitution if ICE comes knocking on their door.
Yo tengo 10 años aquí y trabajo en un restaurante limpiando mesas y atendiendo clientes.
Tenemos casi 11 años y yo limpio casas.
Yo tengo 20 años aquí, trabajo limpiando casas y mi esposo en la construcción.
Meetings like this one, put on by Fiel Houston, a local immigrants' rights organization, are happening all across the country.
Al salir de aquí, ¿qué es lo que ustedes quisieran llevarse a casa?
This group is asking whether they can trust local police if they are pulled over or witness a crime or are victimized themselves.
Hace unos meses me poncharon con navaja las llantas de mi coche y no tenemos enemigos. Y nunca supimos por qué. Y le hablamos a la policía porque yo necesitaba el reporte para que la aseguradora cubriera las llantas. Entonces ya mi esposo le dio la licencia y dijo, está vencida. Entonces nos dio miedo. Y dijimos, ¿y ahora qué va a pasar? Con nosotros por haberle hablado, porque nos hicieron un daño, ¿no?
Immigration enforcement used to be the exclusive work of the federal government, ICE and Border Patrol. But in 1996, Congress opened the door for federal agencies to widen their reach by partnering with local law enforcement. Now, President Trump wants to expand that further and has threatened to punish local governments that don't agree.
Hey, Sheriff.
Hey, Josh. Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Ed Gonzalez is the sheriff of Harris County, which includes Houston. Until recently, 10 officers worked full-time for ICE inside the local jail here. But Sheriff Gonzalez has withdrawn from the agreement, saying the $675,000 price tag could be spent better in other ways. He honors ICE detainer requests, but believes too much collaboration can be counterproductive.
People start thinking, well, wait a minute, they can now question me. Why am I going to report a crime? They'll just assume I'm just not going to witness anything, I'm not going to report anything because of the fears of what could happen. Is it practical for us to go after every person that's cheating on their income taxes and IRS law? And we're talking about civil law, and it's so broad that at some point we dilute the focus. We get mission creep. You know, our task, and we're not doing a good enough job of it, is going after the hard criminals.
In April, Houston police announced a nearly 43% drop in the reports of rape and a 13% drop in the reports of violent crime, but only in the Hispanic community.
I've never bought into the argument that the fear of deportation is the #1 problem for us to ignore a federal body of criminal law. With this administration, the first policy that he enacted was you have a set of laws in place. Now go out and do your job. And so that removed the chains.
Andy Lauterbach is sheriff of Jackson County, population 15,000. He's lobbied the state capitol to punish counties and officials that don't comply with voluntary detainers.
For those who look at this issue and say, yeah, there's a criminal element, there's also an element that's ripping apart families of people who aren't violent criminals. What do you think about that idea of ripping apart families?
What does the criminal justice system do?
Public safety?
Who rips more families apart than any other system in the U.S. or the world? Criminal justice. In the actions of people, which cause me to interact with them, we split families apart. That's what we do.
Because I told my mom I had this dream where it was just a normal day. We were just gonna go throw away the trash outside in a bin. She literally just comes out and the whole church is surrounded by ICE people and just take her away and disappear.
10-year-old Roberto, 13-year-old Luna, and 6-year-old Zuri are U.S. citizens. Their mother, Jeanette Vizguera, is an undocumented immigrant from Mexico. On February 15th, she had a scheduled check-in with ICE.
Instinto dijo, no debes de llegar. Debes protegerte porque le haces falta a tus hijos. Y pues empezar a hablar de, se está acercando el tiempo, probablemente tengo que entrar a santuario. Creo que tomé la decisión correcta porque el día 15 de febrero ellos estaban listos para arrestarme.
Jeanette is now living in the basement of the First Unitarian Church of Denver.
What do you think about this situation? Do you wish your mom was home? What else?
That I could hug her in bed.
Is that what you miss, hugging her in bed?
Because that's what I always do.
Jeanette is an incredibly honorable, hardworking, awesome mother to her 3 children. And she deserves, not only does she deserve to stay in this country, but she deserves to get a fair shake by this country. She's been here for almost 20 years. She's been paying taxes. She is a good citizen.
In the wake of President Trump's immigration crackdown, a new sanctuary movement is taking hold in faith communities across the country. Jeanette is one of the leaders of the movement.
Alrededor del país tenemos 800 iglesias, de las cuales 400 están activas y más que están viniendo a acercarse a nosotros, al movimiento santuario. Entonces, en algún momento de la vida vamos a tener mucha gente acogida en santuario. No somos gente cobarde, al contrario, estamos yendo en contra del sistema para lograr cambios, sabiendo que el sistema no está trabajando justamente.
ICE said Jeanette is a deportation priority because she has 2 misdemeanor convictions, one for attempted possession of false documents and another for illegal entry.
You went back to Mexico at some point when you weren't allowed to. Can you explain that?
Cuando me hablan de México después de 15 años de no ver a mi madre y me dicen, mi madre está en el hospital, está en fase terminal de cáncer, pones en la balanza ¿Son más importantes los papeles o la mujer que te dio la vida? Era la última vez que yo iba a ver a mi madre. Hice lo que mi corazón me dijo que tenía que hacer. Sé que sabía también que se iba a complicar mi caso.
Jeanette's case began after a traffic stop in 2009 while driving without a license. At the time, there was a mandatory reporting law in Colorado, meaning the police got in touch with ICE about Jeanette. Hans Meyer is Jeanette's attorney.
Hey Josh, how's it going?
How are you?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks
Good.
for making time.
Yeah, absolutely. The more that you enmesh local criminal justice interests in immigration, the more you divide and isolate immigrant communities and the less safe local communities actually become. You promote bias-based policing.
Earlier this year, a colleague from his law firm filmed plainclothes ICE agents in the Denver courthouse.
Are you allowed to tell me your name? Okay, are you allowed to tell me that you're from ICE? You are allowed to tell me you're from ICE. Okay. Are you here picking up someone in particular? You're not allowed to tell me.
The fact that they're operating in the criminal justice system locally in a public courthouse has a tremendous chilling effect on people's ability to trust the local system. And we saw that with the city attorney's statements from a couple of weeks ago that some of the members of the community who have been victims of crime were too afraid to come to court because of agents like this trolling the courthouse. We want local government out of the ICE game, period.
Back in Washington, we took some of the local concerns directly to the Department of Homeland Security. We started by asking about the drop in crime reports from cities like Houston and Los Angeles.
It's too early for anybody to draw causal relationships. I would just offer that because of enforced immigration, perhaps people are choosing not to commit crimes that they might have previously because they're concerned about how they'll be held accountable now, as opposed to perhaps before. So if we're enforcing the laws that we're obligated to enforce and it has an effect, then it is what it is.
Would you prioritize someone who's committed a violent crime and someone who's driving without a license in the same way?
I think it's a false comparison in that, remember at the base of it, we're a country of laws. Someone that is here unlawfully has come into the country and violated the law by being here under those circumstances. So now if you go out and drive without a license, you've added to your disregard for the law.
Well, what's your message to the immigrant community? Because there is fear and anxiety and uncertainty there right now. What is your message to the people who are here undocumented?
You know, this was the question I knew you'd probably ask me. And I don't have a good answer for it because I don't think there's one simple thing to say.
It's 11 million people who want a legal way to be citizens here, and they're put in impossible situations.
The Department of Homeland Security, as I said, is duty-bound to enforce the laws. We can't change the laws, whether we like them or not.
They have to establish priorities every day. It's as old as crime, because you have to establish priorities if you want to be effective. Same is true for the President of the United States. Same is true of the Secretary of DHS. There is just, in reality, not enough resources to go after, a child rapist or someone who spits on the sidewalks. Simply, there are not resources enough to do both.
El miedo nos ayuda a veces a impulsar a hacer las cosas que no hacíamos antes. Entonces ahorita no es tiempo de sentarnos y de quedarnos a llorar en la casa. Ahorita tenemos que salir a levantar nuestra voz, hacer sentir que nosotros merecemos ser respetados, pero también valorados en nuestro trabajo.
Instead of shaping us like normal little kids that want to have a happy life, kind of shaping us into kids that are really scared. They want to shape us into kids that are really scared, but we're actually shaping ourselves into kids that are brave. I want to be brave like my mom. I look up to her.